Welcome to the first edition of Arlington Community Media's Black History Month series. I'm joined by Onyi Nwokogba. And Onyi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Zach. I'm very happy to be here.
So you're by trade a legal professional, but you work in negotiations now. Can you tell me a little bit about the journey to where you are now?
Oh, certainly. I started out at my company helping them with an acquisition. I actually remember because we were in a room of a lot of lawyers. It was a lot of lawyers. Yeah, I basically transitioned out of that role into negotiating to help them secure their assets, and it was actually quite accidental. I wasn't sure if I would be good at it, and because it's really a different kind of intelligence and assessment, but it turned out to be really great, so I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
You mentioned that you knew you wanted to be an attorney from a pretty young age. You said you were at a British school in Nigeria before you came to Arlington, and even then you knew you wanted to be an attorney. What sparked that interest?
I think it had a lot to do with being in a country where the laws were not enforced and just seeing the impact that that had on the community. I think that something that I do love about developed worlds or countries is that the rule of law has been established and has been greatly thought about and enforced, and it essentially to help out the citizens just to live a better existence. And I thought that I wanted to be involved in that in some ways, just really examining the rules and coming up with ways to make humanity like a better place in some way.
Did you have any mentors or teachers early on who helped catalyze that interest?
Absolutely. I think it's very hard to be successful without support, and I think my dad was instrumental in terms of always telling me that I could do it, even though I was a very, very tiny girl. And I have 3 brothers, so I grew up in a very male-dominated house, and I know that when my father bought them toy guns, I got one too. I used to put the toy guns on my Barbies. So, and I think that he was really instrumental in letting me know that I could achieve whatever I wanted to, as long as I put my mind to it and worked hard and kept focused.
So, tell me a little bit more about your family. It sounds like it was a very, nurturing, encouraging situation. What made you all move to the United States? What brought about that change?
We actually are a mixed family. My father is Nigerian and my mother is American. They met at Vanderbilt, so they're college sweethearts. And we lived here for a while. He was a professor and taught at Vanderbilt, moved around, and I think when he wanted to go back to Nigeria for a little bit. We went back with him, and then we went to boarding schools, and then came back and in order to go to college pretty much. And then we've all kind of stayed and scattered around, and so we are a mixed family and we're an international family, and we've lived in both.
And also an Arlington local in some ways. You were a graduate of Arlington High School. You spent a year there.
Yeah.
We had a nice talk about the difference between your schooling in Nigeria and here in Arlington. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences, maybe similarities?
I thought that Arlington High had a wonderful curriculum. I remember that. I really enjoyed the classes, and I did appreciate that they rewarded hard work, which was one of the first things that I saw was, I believe after my first day, I had written an essay. They were like, well, what did you read this summer? And I was like, I read a lot, and they were like, just write something so we'll figure out where to place you. And I had written this piece, I think it was on a John Grisham novel, I don't remember. And I was, immediately put in like honors English, and I loved that you could distinguish yourself and that they had different grades for your skill level. I didn't really have that before. We all just took the same classes and, you were graded against each other. But there seemed to be a reward system that I appreciated.
And you took some I would say pre-law classes there too, right?
That's correct, yes. I was trying to take any legal class I could that I had access to. So I remember taking constitutional law, and I took maybe legal principles or something. And I was pre-law in college as well. So I started early.
It sounds like it, and obviously it paid off. I also heard you read a bunch of novels over the summer. A John Grisham novel is what you decided to write your essay on. But you're writing your own novel now.
That's correct.
How is that going?
It's going. The creative process is certainly challenging because you want it to be on a timeline, but art has its own time. So I did spend about 6 to 9 months in Nigeria, again, I believe a couple years ago? And I did my interviews, got my, just researched, and I went to the village, and actually it was when the Ebola virus broke out.
Oh, wow.
So I had to hide for like a month, and then I came out, but it was great because I conducted interviews with the locals. I needed some more depth to my characters, and I hadn't been there in a while, so it was great to go back and just be able to finish off those characters and get more, realistic assessments of the situations I had depicted in the book.
Do you think it's helped you to exercise this creative part of your brain in your professional life as well? Because I'd imagine it's very different skills in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think that's a very accurate assessment, Zach. I think that the writing part is obviously mutual. I mean, it crosses over, but I think because I write fiction, or I am writing fiction, you are always looking for inspiration for your characters. I believe that, so I spent about an hour creating each major character and about 30 minutes creating minor characters. And you basically have to hole yourself up in a room and think about a character for an hour and come up with their traits. And I think that, the real world certainly is, helps that. And people you meet every day, you're kind of like, I could add that. Or, okay, maybe my character is going to have, those eyebrows, or, so I think the real world ends up being quite an inspiration, and everything crosses over in like a very cool way.
I can't wait to read it. I hope we can get an advanced copy, maybe.
That would be great, on the house.
Oh, wow, thank you. And so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your work life now. I'm sure that beyond just having to balance all this, as a young professional, you've certainly experienced some challenges along the way. You're in a field dominated by men. Has that ever been a challenge for you?
It has been. As I always tell people, I think it's very interesting because I wear two hats. I am a minority and I'm a woman, and basically figuring out how each situation you're in, which one matters more. There's some situations where I feel being a minority is more challenging than necessarily my gender, and then there's others that I definitely feel that it's my gender. So for example, in law school, I was pretty much one of the only minorities in my class, so gender didn't matter as much in that scenario. But I think that something that's really helped me is that I do come from a mixed family, racially as well, and I was trained at a very young age to always look at people for who they are, and whether I got that from other people, that's different, but I always knew that. I always thought people were people, and I just focused on what I was there for, what it was going to take for me to achieve my goals, and I generally blocked out the rest. Yeah.
As a woman of color, do you find that you have to code switch in certain situations, or are you, in your professional life and personal life, able to exist in, spaces as who you are without having to, change how you, I don't want to say perform, but.
Sure. I think that's a valid question. I think that I always try to approach people as people first, because I find that the way you approach people also helps them approach you back. So, I always tell people, I'm like, sometimes people aren't certain how to approach minorities. Maybe they want to have a conversation with you. Maybe they didn't even think about it. And if you are the one that takes the first step to show that, you reach out and you just like, this doesn't matter, I find that generally people are receptive to that. There are situations that you're definitely uncomfortable, and you can tell people are uncomfortable with you. But I honestly think that you always have to stay true to your objective. What are you trying to achieve in every single situation? Race, gender, and the outward depiction of a person is irrelevant to your objectives if you are aware of what they are.
What message would you have to young girls and boys who want to follow in your footsteps and go into the field that you're in now?
I would definitely say that you have to believe in yourself. I think that you have to really think about what you want to do, and seek mentors if you can. Seek people who look at you the way you look at yourself. In terms of your goals, and I think just always surround yourself by the positive message that you can do it, and definitely stay away from the ones that seem to imply that you can't. It's a very conscious effort to align with what is in your heart and what you think you're capable of.
You bring up mentors, and we talked about that a little bit earlier, and the importance of that, but throughout our conversation, it's very clear you know who you are, you have an incredible self-belief, and then would you say that has been a real motivating factor for you too, something to sort of lean on in tough times?
Absolutely, and I think that that is something that I have to say that I love about America, is that I was always aware that it was a can place. You can do it. There are opportunities. This is the place where hard work is really rewarded, and there are just so many avenues to fulfill things that you want to do, and I think that it's basically very important to always remember that you are in a country that has. Actually, cheesily, I love the Constitution.
You're an attorney. That's I don't know if that's cheesy.
Yeah, but because it's just the principles that are in there are just so aspirational and just such a depiction of what humankind should be like. And I don't know if I've ever seen that before, especially with the time I spent in Nigeria, which I really enjoyed, but I did see a lot of suffering. I saw a lot of poverty, and there were just a lot of things that had not been necessarily taken care of. And I think that that's something that I appreciated in America, was that I was like, wow, like they thought of everything. Just the little things that you didn't even think about has been thought about, and I saw that as an opportunity. I was kind of like, okay, well, if you get A's, it looks like you get bumped up into the honors program, and then maybe you'll get a scholarship, and then maybe you'll have your pick. There was always a winding path to opportunity, and a very great reward system. So I really appreciate that.
So if you do your work, good things happen.
That is the general belief, and not without challenges, and not without being in really scary situations and uncertain situations. But I think that if you believe that there is good out there, and that we are essentially meant to be happy, I think that will help you. You
mentioned the aspirational nature of the Constitution and America's founding documents, and I think we're in a position now in the United States where a lot of folks at the highest levels of government and in their own communities are wrestling or grappling with what those aspirations are, and what they should be going forward. Mm-hmm. Has the tenor of the last maybe year, 2 years in the United States changed your opinion of the country and the goals that you see its founding documents bringing to life?
Not necessarily. It is a very new administration, so I have been told to wait and see. But no, I still believe in what the country stands for, and I still believe in the American people. So.
Shifting gears a little bit here, you have a very kind of, I don't say duality, but to a certain degree it is. You were brought up in 2 different countries, 2 different continents, a multiracial, multinational family. How do you bridge those gaps, if there are gaps, or how do you even navigate that?
Well, that's a valid question, and to confirm, Zach, there are gaps. I think that it was definitely very hard in a way to be different. That was very difficult, and I think to sometimes see the way people reacted to our family. We were accepted and we were rejected, and we were accepted and we were rejected. So.
Why do you think that was?
Well, I think it was a very radical thing at that time. I think my parents got married in the 80s, so it was a bit new to have different races, different countries coming together in a family. But I believe that my parents were very much in love, and that was all that mattered to them. So I think that was really. That always helped us conquer things, because we were like, well, they just kind of like each other. It's not that complicated. But I think that it definitely helps, because I was able to learn, two different cultures. And, like I said, I was the Nigerian that was reading Nancy Drew and watching Disney movies growing up. And, and I really think that really helped to be able to accept different worlds, and just to be able to access that was really great.
Do you think in some ways it was an advantage for you?
I would say so. I guess sometimes we like to focus on the disadvantages, because sometimes you have feelings you're not sure where you belong, and you have conflicting. Sometimes you want to be one place, or like I can be in Nigeria and be like, I really want a pizza, and I haven't really eaten dairy in 8 years or something, but I might want a pizza. Or I can be here, and there's a particular restaurant in Nigeria I want to go to. So you do have those thoughts going through your head all the time. But I think you think of it as it's just wonderful to be able to have access to different places and people, and just to enjoy each one wherever you are.
So, growing up and into your young adult and adult life, you've navigated different continents, different countries, different cities, different levels of schooling, different professions. What's the best advice you've received along the way?
I'm not sure if it's advice versus inspiration, perhaps. I think Shakespeare, when he said, "And above all, to thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou shalt not be false to any man." It's always been my favorite quote, because I think that when you are faced with very different situations, all you have is yourself. And, like I said, really focusing on those goals. I think that you always have to see the finish line, because the interim stuff will throw you off. But I would say that's, just be true to yourself, really believe that you can do it, and block out distractions.
So obviously very goal-oriented.
Very goal-oriented.
If that wasn't clear already from the laundry list of things you've accomplished and are accomplishing. What's next? You have your novel coming out.
Yeah. I do really enjoy what I'm doing right now, and I'll take it step by step. I believe that once the novel comes out, it'll be a new chapter, no pun intended. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the year brings.
All right. Well, Onyi, thank you so much for being with us. We hope to hear back from you soon, and are really excited to see what the next chapter does bring for you.
Thank you very much, Zach. Thank you. It was very nice.